What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Derek and Cody, with you. Guys, we're going to talk about this topic because trade deadline is coming up. It's basically a week from now. And, the Colts have put themselves in a weird situation, a situation that we're not used to seeing right now with changing quarterbacks mid-season. And now it has a lot of people questioning on whether or not the Colts are going to be sellers before the trade deadline, or if they end up trying to trade for somebody here in the next week. We're going to break that down. But Cody, in spite of what's going on, do you think that the Sam Ehlinger decision makes persuades the Colts to go a certain way on how they approach the NFL trade deadline coming up?
That is a great question. And this is one of those things where I don't know if I really necessarily have an opinion on it, just because, we just don't know with Sam Ehlinger, right? We just don't know what the Colts are like, is their plan? And they would never admit this, and I wouldn't think Ballard and Reich, knowing what's at stake, would do this and basically, essentially, if they tank, they're gone, right? There's no question about that. So I personally think what is most likely to happen, what I would like to happen versus what's most likely to happen are probably two different things. What I would like to see happen is the Colts to trade and sell some of these players off for some higher draft capital next year to move up and get your franchise guy. Because on the possibility, Derek, that Sam Ehlinger actually is decent and he does lead the Colts to some wins, and if they're sitting there with 7-8 wins at the end of the year, that's not going to do you any favors when it comes draft time, right? And you're going to need all the draft capital you can get to get up there and get your guy. So that's what I would do. But knowing where this regime is right now and these guys really on their last legs, it appears, I don't see the Colts trading any of their players personally. I don't really see that happening. I don't think that that's something that Ballard and Reich would do, knowing where they're at right now. I do think if they buy low, maybe an offensive lineman. I know there's mentioned Chris Reed has been a name that's kind of been thrown around, probably an interior offensive lineman would be my best guess, because I don't really feel like outside of that, there's really a whole lot of a market for anybody, that the Colts, would feel like they want to trade. I mean, let's be honest, trading for a guard is not going to cost you that much, maybe, a late round pick at the most. So that's kind of what I would say. I kind of think, it's just kind of a weird message to your locker room right now. And I don't know if your locker room quite knows what to think right now. I'm sure there's guys that are shocked in that locker room right now because of this shakeup at the quarterback position. So it's so early, and it's too early to tell what this team is going to be. But I'd personally like to see them sell some players, but I don't think they'll actually do that. What is your opinion on it?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, Ballard has never been the impulsive guy, right? And it's weird how we're now seeing this change with Ehlinger, and now all of a sudden Colts fans think their mentality is sell. It's a fire sale, like what you see in Call of Duty right now, just fire sale. You get anyone and everyone for as much as we can get. I think we need to slow down just a little bit when it comes to that. I think we're all in agreement. I think every single person in Colts Nation agrees that there are a few people in this group of Colts players that probably should be on their way out at some point. But I'm in agreement with you. I don't believe that there is a scenario in which that Ballard is going to trade away some of our players right now, because I don't think he believes that there is much to worry about with the whole totality of the team. I mean, you can do with that as you wish right now, but I mean, that I'm just telling you what Ballard's way of thinking is. I truly don't think he truly believes there's a lot going on with some of these players. And I don't think he's just going to start selling 3, 4, 5 players at the trade deadline, right? Like, we're not in a rebuild like the Panthers are. The Panthers were in a rebuild, and even then, they were still not willing to give up some of their big pieces, especially on defense. I don't anticipate them doing the same thing with this situation going on. And on top of it, I think the other reason why we can hold off on, we think the Colts may not be selling a lot of people, is you brought Sam Ellinger into this position because I said it yesterday, Cody, and we all kind of re-echoed it, that you brought Sam Ellinger in because you're looking to see what he can provide for you. If you just start selling all of your guys and then you don't have an answer for depth and how to make this team better at the moment, then there's no point in bringing Sam Ellinger in, because all you're doing is just going to ruin his chances to show what he has, right? So what you want to see with Sam Ellinger is, with this current roster, that can Sam Ellinger do something different with those group of guys that, Matt Ryan couldn't, right? And then at the end of the year, be it you have a decent back end of the season or you have a bad back end of the season, then you start trading away some of those guys then, right? Like, that seems like the more logical thing to do right now, especially since you can't just fire sale about 5 to 10% of your team and then just expect Sam Ellinger to just continue to do this, try to be the best version of himself. You just can't do that unless you're trading player for player at that point with one of these teams, which definitely sounds like something they would do. But it just seems like a very drastic thing that I just don't know if the Colts were doing. I would want them to start selling some people and maybe buy one or two guys to maybe bolster up this offensive line a little bit. But I think that it's very obvious that they probably won't go that direction.
There's no way that Ballard and his hubris will ever do that. I don't think he ever will, because basically if you're doing that, you're throwing in the towel at 3-3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost like stealing your fate. So if Ballard wants any opportunity, and I still think there maybe is kind of an opportunity for Ballard specifically to maybe be, not gone at the end of the year and they try to get a new head coach. I could see that happening. But you know what I mean? Like, if Ballard wants any opportunity back here with Indianapolis, he's not going to sell these players. He's not going to do that. He's going to try to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that looks better on his resume. So, yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you in the sense of, like, I think, if the season continues on how it has and your record isn't great, you start dropping more games and you're sitting there in the top 10 of draft order, then you just clean house and you just start over. You start trading some players, you figure things out, and you just go from there. But I don't think right now that's probably the move, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the philosophy of this entire regime right now. And it just doesn't seem like, even amongst everything that's going on with a drastic change, just couldn't imagine them just throwing in the towel right now with what it's going. I just don't think they're going to do that, especially to Sam Ellinger right now, who's trying to lead this team the best of his ability from this point forward. You got to give this guy a chance. You got to do something with whatever you can do. I mean, do you believe that there is a specific player that maybe potentially they do sell or buy at this point in a week before the deadline? Because we've seen teams say, like, even the Broncos said they're willing to trade Bradley Chubb at the end of the game against Jacksonville if they lose, because they're just thinking, well, we got to get compensation somehow to try to fix this team, because obviously Russell Wilson's behind ain't doing it right now. So what's the point in having this fantastic player on your defense when your defense isn't the problem? You're trying to fix something on offense. So, I mean, do you think there is somebody on this Colts team that, even though we don't expect a fire sale, there could be somebody dealt?
So the two guys that come to mind are guys that you can replace with players in-house. So I'm going to say these two players, and I think these are probably the two most obvious players, two players who have really been struggling this season, but have both made a Pro Bowl, and I think would still demand a decent amount of compensation. That the first one being Ryan Kelly. You have Danny Pinter, who's played well even this season at center, and with how bad Kelly's played, it really can't get a whole lot worse. If you're trying to fix this offensive line, that's a good first step. And then the second one would be actually Kenny Moore. And I know that might be surprising for some people, but Kenny Moore has not looked the same since last year. He just has not. He's been really bad this year. He had a really good game against Jacksonville, but besides that, he just has not looked like the Kenny Moore of old. And you still have Isaiah Rodgers who can play the slot, So I do believe that those would be the two players, if I'm guessing, and I don't think they will, but if they were to, those would be two players that you could trade and then still have players that could play, at the same level, if not better, that you could plug into there. What are your thoughts? Do you have any other players besides the two I listed that you would see
I
potentially?
could definitely agree with both of your listings. I would definitely say I wish that I could give you a better indication of that, because I would say trade guys like freaking maybe like Brandon Faison or Matt Pryor, but it'd be impossible to get anything from them at this point. I mean, both of those guys played so terribly over the last season so far. I mean, Faison, I mean, you brought him in here with, I mean, what did they give up for him? Or no, it was a free agent signing, so he wasn't anything. But the fact that he's like, I think he's like literally one of the dead last corners in efficiency of everything. You wouldn't be able to get a 6th rounder out of him at this point. And Matt Pryor, you're not going to get anything out of him for that. But I would love to see who else we could potentially get to add to this offensive line. I'm going to try to see if I can find somebody from the Panthers that could potentially. I think I've seen a few offensive linemen, especially for like the Panthers, that could be in for us right now. The last time we traded for or we brought in a guy from Carolina, which was Chris Reed, that turned out really good for us. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the Colts do in fact actually trade somebody away. But like you said, I mean, Ryan Kelly, you do know that if you were to go in-house, you can definitely rely on Pinter to be the center right now, and then you can add a backup piece to there at some point. So no issue there. But yeah, that's the only one I could imagine in this season. Like in the season, if we were talking about at the end of the season, maybe things change, but not during the season. I couldn't expect anyone else really to get traded right now.
Right. It's like the team would not just leave themselves with a wide open hole on the roster, right? The player that they would have to trade would be a player that's either not playing well, that can be easily replaced, or maybe isn't getting as much starting run, as they expected. But there still are, a lot of people would hold them in high regard for draft compensation. That's what I would say.
Yep, absolutely. That's really going to do it for this one, guys. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. The trade deadline, it's going to be in less than a week. A bunch of teams are still shopping players. I mean, obviously, I said Bradley Chubb. We talked about DJ Moore is probably going to be on the move soon. You talked about there's some Bears players on the defensive side that are going to be potentially on the move. But then again, I doubt that the Colts would make any move with that one, because that's just going to cost a lot right now. So there's a lot of moves that can be made, both from Indy's standpoint and around the league so far. So be sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think of the Colts being buyers or sellers before the NFL trade deadline next Tuesday. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts. What's going on, everybody? Today, I wanted to talk to you about our sponsor, BetStamp. Now, I know what you're thinking. Derek, another betting app? What is so different about this one now? Well, I got to tell you guys, I'm not into online gambling a whole lot and bets online and everything, but I got to tell you, BetStamp is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in regards to betting online. The great thing about BetStamp is it allows you to see all the different odds from all different sports books and see which one provides you the best odds possible for any game or scenario you want to bet on for your pick versus some of the worst. BetStamp allows you to also buy and sell picks that you have without worrying about losing your money or having any issues with it. Believe me, it's all free. I mean, look at this, guys. You have an option for every game across all different kinds of leagues in a ton of different ways. You have baseball, you have college football, UFC, NBA, and NFL. Great for the NFL season now being here. And if I wanted to bet on this Tennessee Titans versus Buffalo Bills game, it shows me in real time what are the best odds, which sports book I'm going to get the best offer from versus some of the worst ones. Because why would you want to spend earn less money from PointsBet when you could be winning more from ProLine Plus. Again, a great thing that BetStamp offers you, allowing you to make more money for the same pick just with a different sports book. How easy is that? And the great thing is there's not just games. There's player props. There's game props. There's lines. There's live tracking. There's a ton of great ways to make bets and picks on BetStamp, guys. Totally a cool thing to use. I highly encourage you check it out if you're into any kind of online betting. Even if you're not, give it a check. See what you like about it, because I think I actually enjoy using it. But the best way to get an edge on online sports betting is having multiple accounts at different sports books. Be sure to hit the BetLink page, betstamp.app/onboarding. Be sure to check out the BetStamp app or online, and be sure to use the referral code JUICE, plug in your state, and you'll get access to all their affiliates and their prices once you open it up, seeing all states' lines. Be sure to check this out, guys. You won't want to miss it for the best odds on your next sports bet.